What's up, my martial arts fanatics? Welcome back to Style Solutions. Today we're talking about, by request, how to fight a Muay Thai fighter. Thai fighters are traditionally very difficult to fight. It's wildly considered the most dangerous of the striking arts by a lot of people, partially because it's so prevalent in MMA. It's extremely dangerous, there's no question. They have fantastic striking from an outside range, powerful kicks from a close range. They have the clinch, elbows, knees. They have the ability to deal out a lot of damage, a nice strong defense that's predominantly based on a lot of blocking, filling up space, a lot of absorbing and checking and stuff like that. And they're very good at protecting themselves while being able to deal out high amounts of damage and being able to absorb high amounts of damage. So it's traditionally very difficult, in addition to the fact that they generally tend to do a lot of forward pressure, which makes people feel like they're on their heels, they don't have space to work. And so that combination, it can be very difficult to face. So today we're going to talk about some stylistic solutions that you can use and things that I do whenever I spar against or when you talk about fighting somebody who is a very successful Muay Thai fighter. So stay tuned, let's start breaking it down. When I fight a Muay Thai fighter, there's three primary tactics that I like to employ. One is use of retreating techniques as a countering system. The second one is to be able to exploit certain targetable areas and play on their habits. And then the third is to be able to establish takedowns when they get to a close range in a clinch. So let's start with the first one of these. Generally speaking, because a lot of Muay Thai fighters, they like to do a lot of pressure forward and cut off range and start really devastating with these big powerful kicks, you can kind of use this against them and lure them back into techniques. So what I like to do is, from an outside, I hit a jab and I get out. I hit a jab and I get out, right? A lot of quick outside opportunism attacks. A lot of front side leg kick, move back. And what I'm trying to do is get them to commit forward and really try to pressure forward. And when they do that, that's what I'm looking for as an opportunity to come back, counter cross, jab, draw back, check hook, stuff like that. Or if you look at my breakdowns of Michael Page, you'll see a lot of stuff like come back into a big uppercut or come back and then come up into a big jumping knee strike as they come forward, really throwing them back. So it's backward to a quick explosion forward. That type of stuff works really well. I like to do my big overhand as well, so I can throw a jab, and as they start coming forward, throw my head off the line and really drop that. Of course, when you do that, you gotta watch out for knees and stuff like that, so you wanna make sure you're protecting yourself. So that's the first thing I like to do. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. Play with how it works for you. So I throw something, and then as I come back, stuff like that overhand, the lead side overhand works really well. That type of stuff I found I've had a lot of success with. Jab, retreat, and counter. Jab, retreat, and counter. Draw them in, and what you're really looking for is for them to throw big committed attacks. The other thing that you can do along this lines, one of my favorite things to do against Thai fighters is, because of the way they throw their roundhouse kick, I like to catch backs a lot. You'll see this a lot, right? Where they throw and they spin into it. Whenever I get that, I like to use that to sweep it through and catch it back. So that's part one. All right, the second thing I like to do is kind of play on habits. So for example, I have a whole video on what to do when you encounter a lot of checking. This is something you see a lot in Thai fighters. So once I establish that they like to check, it's very easy for me to exploit that. Probably my favorite technique is I throw the leg and I force it, I get them in the habit of check, right? I throw a jab back up, throw a counter, then I throw a leg kick, right? And I do this, and as I start doing this, what I'm starting to do is create this reaction that then I can start exploiting that into things like fake into my side kick. So playing on that habit works really well. Along those lines, I like to do a lot of midsection attacks whenever I fight against Muay Thai fighters. They tend to do a good job getting inside of control, obstructing these lanes, protecting their heads, making it very difficult to catch them. So I don't do a lot of head hunting until I've opened them up a little bit. And there's a couple techniques I like to do. One of them is the one I just showed, the leg kick to the side kick. I love using that. You can also do variations of that where I fake the roundhouse and I come forward with a front kick. I also like to do a lot of drop ship punching and that Dominic Cruz, TJ Dillashaw type of stuff where I throw a jab and I get out, right? I come in here, feint, drop shift. Then I start building on it and I start doing stuff like drop shift, come up to my hooks, and start getting to that back three quarter corner on them, so that I drop shift punch, come up to my hook, and start stepping it behind. I might even post on the shoulder so that as I start coming around the corner, like I'll jab like we did in the Corey Sandhagen breakdown, and then I'll drop shift, roll under, come out to a hook, post on the shoulder, catch the three-quarter back for just a second, get a couple punches, and then get back out of range. That's stuff I've had very, very good success with, but generally speaking, I feel like this is the area where they tend to be weakest. Now, you have to kind of do some directional change to get there because they're very good at checking and getting on top as you throw kicks. So what I do is I use that against them where I feint, get that leg up, and then as it comes down, then I come up. Or I feint, come across, and then I come up the other direction. That type of stuff is where I've had the most success. You can, of course, do any number of other things like, as I do my step back here, I can draw back into my turning back kick, or even better, into what I've called my sheath kick, where my rotating turning back kick. That type of stuff also works well. I've also had good success with my dropping turning wheel kicks, where I put a hand on the floor, my hand plant ones, so that as I come down, it just comes up at a weird angle and they're not used to it. So that's where I've had a lot of success in my striking. I'm gonna finish up on my third point here, which is clinching. Generally speaking, when it comes to clinching, a couple things you just have to keep in mind. I mean, you can watch my breakdown on how to defend a clinch. You get your knee inside, frame off. I can start slapping over the top and getting that free. Any number of different escapes. I can start pitching over the top, any of that stuff. But what I find works really well for me is I'll use this as an opportunity to just take them down. All I do is I focus on, as they start pulling down my head, keeping diligent about keeping my head up to keep them from pulling that down on the knee strikes. And because a lot of Thai fighters like to come hit forward a lot as they're doing this, I'm gonna take advantage of that. I'm gonna get my body clinch, I'm gonna suck in their hips, and I'm gonna reap and take them down. That's generally my philosophy. Because what they're trying to do is they want you to go hit back, okay? So as you go hit back, they want to start striking. So what do most Muay Thai fighters do? They keep their hips forward. That means that even in their striking, they generally tend to come forward a lot with their hips. And as they do so, you can come in here, pull their hips in tight, and then use this to start getting your reaps and stuff like that. And then of course your normal stuff, the reactive shots and things like that also work. But when it comes to clinching, I usually like to either, start coming over the top with elbows, do any of my normal escape stuff. But generally what I really like to do is either pulling in their hips to reap, or a nice duck under works really well. So that's basically it. That's mostly what I do when I start talking about fighting Thai fighters and stuff like that. But then of course, all your normal counter stuff works. It's no different. Like if you have good boxing, you can start getting on top as they throw a punch, coming on top and countering, slipping, that type of stuff still works. They're just notoriously difficult because they have a couple things they do really well, and they're really powerful. So that's generally my philosophy anyway.